Going live.
You sound like you're going dead.
I do have a cold, so I might be stepping away and letting John take over at some point. But welcome to Worldwide Sock Car Chat on Zoom number 204. The gang is all here. We got Luff and Mike and John and Don and Dennis and Brian and people, and we're going to talk slot cars. We'll start with show and tell. I'm going to do my show and tell real quick because I want to make sure I get it done. And apparently I was not ready. So let me switch back to there. There we go. So my son is a mechanical engineer, and when he was looking at my truing machine, and I was lamenting how much of a pain in the butt it is to tram the sanding spindle to the axle. And we kind of bounced ideas off each other, and of course, lots of great ideas back and forth. And I kind of ended up landing on this, which you see has been prototyped to describe what we're doing. We used to have a screw beneath the bearing, which could be used to push the bearing up towards the axle. You would do that on whichever side of the spindle needed to move closer. Well, now the other side is held firm, and you don't need to use the screw on the other side. And on this side, the bearing, the part that holds the bearing is now eccentric. So the bearing can move away from the axle by 2 millimeters or towards the axle by 2 millimeters. It's being pushed from below by two stiff pen springs that are just in shafts in behind it to add pushing force to the bottom of the bearing. And it is held from going up all the way by this screw. So the the end of the screw is touching the top of the bearing. So basically, with turning one screw, you can completely adjust the tram of the sanding spindle to the axle. I don't even think 2 millimeters is necessary, probably just 1 millimeter either way, but I made it 2 millimeters just to be safe. I have tested this as you see in the picture. Basically, I got the wheels spinning and everything and made sure it wasn't just kind of moving around while it was spinning, but I have not trued tires on it yet. So that's the next test, is to true tires. The downside to this, huge upsides for tramming, right? If you remember how much of a pain it was to tram before, so much easier now. The downside is now there are two springs under that bearing. So when you need to remove the sanding spindle, for example, to replace a broken or worn band between the sanding spindle and the axle carrier, those springs want to go flying, and they need to be under a decent amount of compression in order to put enough force on the bearing to keep it from wobbling around while things are spinning and stuff. So I have not completely vetted this idea, but so far so good. Any questions? Okay, moving on. I'm okay with that. Okay, so again,
comment if you want to comment.
Comment if you want to comment. Great idea, Greg.
Originally, underneath the bearing, there was another a screw, right?
Yep.
So if you had extended the whole of that screw right through to the back of the unit and used a set screw from underneath, you could have a set screw, one on each side of the bearing, which would probably provide you with a more solid location of the bearing.
Yes, that was one of the original ideas, and it was set aside because of how difficult it would be to turn that screw, because you can't get a screwdriver in because of where the base of the machine is. So you would have to use some kind of L-shaped driver, and it would be a pain. But basically, yeah, if the springs don't work then that is an option that I might reconsider.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, and it was basically just because of how difficult it would be to turn that screw because of the base being obstructing your typical,
Unless there was an access hole in the base.
unless I put a big old hole in the base. Yeah.
No, it's not. Doesn't have to be that big. It's got to be the size of whatever hex driver you're going to use
But
to get up in there. So it's like an 1/8 of an inch hole.
But then everybody has to have a hex driver with a fairly long shaft.
All about the tools, man. All about the tools.
I fully recommend that everybody gets some hex drivers with a nice long shaft for just that kind of thing.
The regular hex drivers have an L shape anyway.
Yeah, the cheap keys. Yeah.
Yeah.
Guys, this is
Anyway.
a cheap kit. I can't remember exactly. I think it came from Hobby Lobby, and let's see if I can kill my picture.
It has an extension thing.
Yeah, flexible. The flexible extension thing, like that.
Yep. I've got one of those too.
So this thing is great
Hopefully not from Hobby
adjusting
Lobby.
the carburetors on a Polaris Ranger. It's really, really good for that.
Yep.
Greg, did you consider any kind of cam system on one side?
I thought about that earlier this morning, and yeah, something like that might work.
It would be accessible from the side as opposed to the bottom type thing there. Just a thought.
Yeah, but I have not gone through the thinking process of designing how that cam would be printed and assembled and accessed and all the intricacies. In this one with the springs, I wanted to do springs, but I was thinking of how hard it would be to do the CAD work for it. And then one night I'm laying there and I'm like, oh, well, I could just do this. So it was a lot easier to stretch that bearing socket out than I thought it was. Anyway, yeah, like I said, still got to chew some tires on it, see how well it holds up. And,
well, my thinking is you leave the elongated bearing slot, but have a cam at the bottom where it would just how far it can slide down, and then tighten it with the top nut again.
Yep, instead of springs. Yep. I did think of that this morning, but yeah, I have not. I'm going to test this first because I've already done the work on this. If this fails, then obviously I'll be looking for other solutions, and that'll probably be one of them.
Well, I guess the question would be, where are you going to source your springs from?
Oh, you can get 100 pen springs for a few bucks off of Amazon. I have some.
Okay.
They're cheap. Yeah. And the number of screws and nuts will change by 1 or 2, but overall, very, very low hardware costs. Wouldn't change the price at all.
And the other thought about the hole from the back or underneath, you wouldn't necessarily need to make that big a hole, because you could put something in there, a piece of brass rod or spring steel, so the screw doesn't have to go 4 inches in. You have screwed in 4 inches to get to the bearing itself. You could have some piece of, I don't know, piano wire or something stiff in between that, so your screw is still right there at the end.
Or a piece of printed plastic can.
It could be multiple things in there. Yeah.
Yep.
Long set screws are not expensive.
Thank you for the ideas, and hopefully I won't need to use any of them. But if so, you'll hear about it. I'll go ahead and do my other show and tell that I was kind of showing earlier, and that is my plans for printing the Worldwide Slot Car Chat proxy car. Currently, my plan is to use PETG for the parts, but I'm seriously considering getting some TPU and printing at least the body in TPU, if not also everything, just for the fun of it. I know Yuna is going to go with the SLS nylon stuff for lightness. I don't care. I'm just going for fun. So that's the plan.
What
That's
kind
cool.
of
Are
material?
you open to taking orders?
Once I get a test print and can confirm that I know what I'm doing, I don't print a whole lot of slot car bodies, so we'll see.
What kind of material is PBU?
TPU, thermoplastic polyurethane. So it's a flexible material. So it's the kind I have is like Shore 80 or something like that. So it's not super soft and squishy, but it is flexible. So if the car gets walled, it'll just bounce right back.
Tupperware, right?
Very similar to Tupperware, yeah. That's probably where Tupperware got the name from.
Except hopefully paintable.
Hopefully what?
Paintable.
Paintable. Well, I'm going to print it in those colors, so.
So you're building like a retro thing that Revell would have done, because their set cars were like Tupperware stuff.
Were they? Cool. Well, it is what it is. Anybody else got any show and tell? John's got his hand up. Go ahead, John.
Well, first of all, it's nice to know I'm not the only one who leverages their offspring for slot car stuff. That's good to know. And it's interesting that you mentioned tires, because I've been casting tires, and I just thought I'd show you one batch of tires that I cast here. I don't know if you can see that yet. There we go.
Wow.
So there's 86 tires of various brands, because you know that sinking feeling where you go to the car on the shelf and you put it on the track and the tires are just gone. Yeah. So that's why I bought a whole bunch of urethane and did a whole bunch of tires here. And you can see there are different types here. There's some Skeletrics, because they got pooched. All of these are Ninko Classics, and this is the second of two batches. I think I did. I don't know how many, but these, believe it or not, are the Fly F1s, because they were off. So I thought, okay, I'll do a couple of those. And these are the Skeletrix F1s, which came out really nicely. Whoops, let me just rotate this. My apologies. There we go. And these are the Fly, the Fly Classic ones that, I don't know, they're almost like little time bombs. You keep them on the shelf and then they sort of melt themselves to the base of the car holder thing. It's just not pretty. So I thought I did some of those as well, but and I still haven't used, maybe a quarter of and I bought the small urethane kit, and it's maybe a quarter. I mean, believe it or not, this is maybe 6 ounces of urethane. That's it. So it's pretty cool. And they all
look very nice.
Yeah, they came out really, really well. Well, again, because
really
I learned. Sorry, go ahead.
Sounds like you're very efficient too.
Well, again, I learned from my offspring, much in the same way Greg did. Yeah, it's she said, Dad, take your time. Don't take them out of the mold too soon, because old people can sometimes be a little, well, can we say, eager. And left them in the molds overnight, and then baked them overnight at 100 degrees Fahrenheit in a convection toaster oven, and they're just lovely. So I just thought I'd show those to you folks that, listen, if you need tires, if I can cast them, anybody can cast them. And it's a 1-part mold. Like the underside that you can't see is basically where the tire pops out of the mold. So it's really, they're very, very easy to do.
What did you use to cast them, John?
Oh, I used silicone.
No,
I meant your original mold that you made.
It is made of silicone. Yeah, silicone and urethane don't adhere to each other. So if you want to make urethane tires, you make the mold out of silicone, and vice versa.
Yeah, I got that part. But your original, what did you mold them off of? What did you use? A tire or? Yeah,
I had tires that weren't destroyed, so I used those.
Okay.
Yeah. So they're stock tires from those cars. Thinking that I knew, especially with flies, I had extra ones, and I thought, before they go gooey and bad, I may as well make molds, and then I've got tires for all the other cars that are going to have the same disastrous melting rear tires thing that happens.
Yep. Alrighty, good stuff. Mr. Giprich, go ahead.
This is more of a show and ask, I guess. Last week they had talked about the foam tires from Scale Auto, and I had eye surgery again last week. I kind of had to bail for reasons last week before I got a chance to ask this. Where are they available? Because the only ones I was able to find were already mounted to rims.
Yes,
Yeah.
they're all like that.
Okay, so every time you need to replace your tires, you're buying a whole new set of wheels for them as well.
Unless you want to strip it off and then try and find the rubber somewhere, and I don't know who has particular rubber.
Okay, so they are. That's the only way they're available.
Slotted sell foam, just the foam, and it may be the same rubber. We'd have to check.
Okay, and they talked about the red, the yellow, and the white. Near as I can tell, that's a size difference, correct?
No, it's a hardness difference.
It is a hardness difference. Okay, and what's the white, yellow, red? Soft to hard, or?
I don't know, but they call them ProComp 2, ProComp 3, ProComp 4, and those numbers go soft to hard from no number to 4.
Okay, so 4 would be the hardest.
Yellow,
4 would be the hardest there?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Asked and answered. All right.
You're welcome.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Okay, let me just change cameras quickly. I just thought that while John was talking about wheels, I could talk about wheels as well. Different kind of wheels, so excuse that. While we're sitting here, I'm busy making wheels for retro Formula One cars. These are machined magnesium rims to which I have glued a very hard, firm black foam that I get from JK Products, and then I grind them on my hoodie. And I'm now sitting here while we're talking, assembling them, because these particular wheels have 2 ball bearings in them. So there'll be a ball bearing on each side. There are these little tubes. Sorry about that. These little tubes that go through the ball bearings. The ball bearing then fits inside the wheel, and then on the other side of the tube, there's this collar that holds the whole assembly together. So you loosen off that set screw, you slide the whole wheel onto a 332 axle, get it where you want it, then lock the set screw down, and you could see on those tubes there's a little hole there, and the set screw goes through that hole and locks onto the axle and holds the whole thing together. So this was something that I started making years ago when I got tired of using old front wheels for rear wheels for front wheels cut down, and you start to get wear of the aluminum or magnesium hub on a steel axle, and they get all wobbly and sloppy. And I thought, we need to have some ball bearings up the front. And initially, the ball bearings ran straight on the 332 axle, but that means that you have to solder some kind of keeper on each side of it, and therefore you get the chance of getting acid flux and so on in the bearings. So I do it this way, and that allows people to buy them like that and use them like that. I have a bunch of different sizes, but I've just had a big order from one of the distributors, so that's what I'm busy with.
Well, I hope you don't get tired.
No, I don't get tired because I'm retired.
Where do you source your magnesium stock from?
Well, I go to a local machine shop here in LA, not far from Electric Dreams, and I order the wheels there, and I just tell him I want magnesium for these wheels. And so he makes the wheels out of magnesium. He makes the collars and the sleeves out of aluminum, and then I buy the set screws in bulk, and the bearings in bulk, and away I go.
Cool.
All right.
Are those for a
That's me
2
for
millimeter
now.
axle? Dennis,
What way?
Say again?
are they for a 2 millimeter axle?
For a 332 axle.
Oh, so your top hat sleeve there must be a bigger OD, and your bearings.
The top hat sleeve is 332s on the inside, 1/8 on the outside, and the
Yeah.
bearings are 1/8 by quarter. So the hole
Yeah.
in the wheel is 1/4 inch, whereas if you were putting it directly on the axle, the hole in the wheel would be 3/16. The bearings would be 3/16 on the outside and 332s on the inside.
So it's a slightly bigger bearing.
Yeah.
I get you.
Those are for front wheels on 124th
For
cars,
front
right?
wheels on retro cars, yeah.
Yeah.
I got a question for Brian. What kinds of, I assume that the pods are designed to take single flange 3/32 bushings, so like 5 millimeter bushings.
332
Correct.
by 316.
I'm sorry. I thought are you asking about the proxy car?
Yeah, the proxy car. Yeah, sorry,
I was using the Professor motor bushings.
but single flange, so they push in.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, if you have a step drill, you can round that out to a 1/4 inch if you want to go to a bigger bearing. There is enough meat there to do it.
No, I most of my spare bearings are double flange, so I'd have to have it pop in rather than push in.
So single flange is what it was designed for.
Yep. If you could put that information like that, particularly that, in the thing description, designed for this kind of bearing, go here to go get it, kind of thing.
Okay, I can do that.
Yeah, anything that the car was specifically designed for. I think that's the only thing that I can think of. Yeah. Anywho,
Well, the
Garth,
only other thing I can think of is it can use a 2 millimeter axle spacer up front as a bearing on the front end. If you look, there's a hole at the very bottom of that a what's it 2 millimeter axle spacer will fit in there. You can utilize it as a bearing on the front axle.
You mean the 2 millimeter NSR bearing, bush spacer?
spacers.
Well, the ones I've been using are the who's the company that makes the guides?
Slotting Plus.
Slotting Plus. The 2 millimeter thick Slotting Plus axle spacer will fit in there, and you can utilize it as a bearing. You got to pop it in there, but it's made to work. All of mine have that in it.
Will it work with the slotted spherical bearings bushings?
I don't know. I doubt it because I don't think the channel's as wide as a 2 millimeter. I didn't try it.
Okay. But yeah, I must be misunderstanding something.
And you say 2 millimeter, you mean 2 millimeter wide, not 2 millimeter diameter or anything like that.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. You got the picture still up, Greg?
Yep. Hold on.
So if you zoom in on go to the outside at the very bottom of that hole there is wide enough. You can push. Now you might be able to try a spherical. I didn't have any on hand. I was using what I had on hand, which was 2 millimeter axle spacers. I mean, it's not. It moves fairly easy, but it's not.
Oh, so you push them in there and then move them up from there.
Correct.
Nice idea.
Correct. Now they don't move. I mean, they don't. Like if you put it to the top, it's not going to fall to the bottom. So you do got to play with it a little bit. But the neat thing is, if you don't have that thing perfectly set, you'll know it.
Yeah.
So you don't have to use them, but you can, and they work quite well.
Yeah, I think probably the thin NSR axle spacers would probably work
They'll
too.
probably work as well.
Yeah, I would think so.
Are the
Alrighty.
slotting plus ones aluminum or are they brass?
Brass,
Okay. Same as
at least the ones I had on hand.
Okay.
I'll probably end up having more questions when I finally print one. All right, thanks for those answers, Brian. Go ahead, Garth.
Yeah, I got a little update to my motor pod thing. Share screen here. Okay, I got 2 cars that I'm testing. The first one here with the yellow wheels is the data car, or what I call the mule car, which is the car that's got the full SLS chassis in it. Okay, and this car's been running for several months, so it has the most time on it. Okay, and the second car is the car that I'm focusing on, which is the one with the rotating tube pod. And this is the second car. Okay, this is one that's got the SLS pod with the rotating tube in it. That's the mule car, which is the kind of the test car, or the data car, you know. And this has got the full chassis in it. And this is the latest thing that I did, and I kind of took this to show Jim Rose, because Jim Rose was telling me that he thought we should carve off the bottom of the little steps in the motor pod to put a spacer in it. So I didn't feel like doing that right away. So what I did is I just took I got some 5mm M2 screws, and I put these little silicone O-rings on there. Okay, and that seemed to help quite a bit. That got me pretty much about 4/10 right off the bat. Okay, so that's what I did. And the next one is this guy here. Okay, and then this is can you guys see this okay?
Yeah.
Okay, this is kind of the results, or so far anyway. So like I said, the first car has been running for a little while, so that's kind of what I'm comparing this car against. Okay, and then you see the specs here. Both cars have the same body. This car has a full SLS chassis in it. Okay, this car has the regular polycar chassis with a weight plate in the front, and the SLS rotating tube pod in the back. Okay, so that's the 2 differences there. Both have the same exact wheels. SLS printed with the aluminum hubs, front and rear. Tires, both silicone super tires. Guides are both the Tiger Shark Model 25s. And then here's the differences in weight. You see this car here is 66 grams. This car is 76 grams, okay? And the front to back weight percentages, 66 on the rear on this guy, 38 on the front. This car is a little different. It's 58 in the rear and 48 and 42 in the front. And then underneath that, you see some times. Both cars, and I usually run these cars about 25 laps each when I run them, you know, and then I walk away and come back a little while later. And, you know, I'm doing, you know, 3 or 4 25 lap versions every day, just as a comparison. And slowly I'm starting to learn the cars really quite well. So I'm picking up speed and stuff. But interesting enough, for the most part, the lap times, just the generalized lap times, are right almost identical. Okay, and at first, the Focus car, this car here, the car with the rotating pod, was quite slower on its fastest time, and then it picked up after I did the silicone spacers underneath the pod screws in the back. Okay, and the pod screws in the front, Wayne had said to loosen them up. I didn't quite loosen them, but they're just slightly, they're tightened and backed off a little bit. So they're kind of tight, but not completely jammed tight. Okay. And then after, a bunch of different laps, and keep in mind that when I say laps, my laps are 250 feet each lap. So 25 laps is quite a lot of time for each session, running 25 laps each session. And interestingly enough, early in the process, okay, the Focus car seemed to be much, much faster. I seemed to like it a lot better. Okay. And I loved the way my first conclusions were, gee whiz, this thing really is great going in and out of turns. Okay. And then after, a series of 25 laps and 25 laps, I started to pick up quite a lot of speed on the lighter car, on this car here, 66%, to the point where it jumped ahead on the fast lap. Okay. And so it's pretty interesting, comparing the two to each other and the way that I feel the difference between the two cars and everything. So I'm going to continue doing that. This car, the next change I want to do is going to be based on this front to back percentages. I'm going to take some weight out of the front and see if I can get the rear to be a little bit a little higher number on the rear, and see if that makes any lap time differences. So that's kind of the what's been going on with that. Okay. And but I would tell you that I really love this pod. Okay. I mean, it may be a little unfair to compare this car to the full, because of the overall weight difference. I mean, this car is 10 grams heavier than this car. Okay, so it's, no matter in anybody's world, 10 grams is a hell of a lot of difference in weight when everything else is the same. So I'm just going to keep doing the same thing and try little changes on it and see how it goes. But so far, I really like that pod. That pod is really quite nice. So, anybody got any questions about the data?
My one was going to be, why haven't you matched those weights to one another? That's the direction that you're heading.
Because it's almost impossible to match the weights one to the other, because one is got a stock chassis and one has got a customized super light chassis on it. So the Focus car, or car number 2, is always going to be heavier. Okay, I can take weight out of the front end and change the front to back ratio. Okay, I think that's going to give me some time, but I don't think there's any way I could make it,
How much weight do you think there is in your mower plate there?
Oh, I don't know. Take a look at it. You tell me. It's not a
Well,
whole.
it depends on how thick it is.
It's real thin.
It's not 10 grams, that's for sure.
No,
That's
hell,
that's not 10 grams.
and
But I'm quite surprised. I would have expected that the heavier car might actually be quicker, because 66 is really light.
yeah,
And I might have
that-
thought that it was too light to be driven at any decent speed.
you know
So
what?
it's quite good.
I completely agree. And the first on the first, in the first as I right off the bat, that's kind of what my conclusion was too, was that the Focus car was going to be a a lot faster. Okay, but it's amazing to me that they're very and what's even more amazing to me is that they drive completely differently. Okay, and yes, the super light car or the 66 gram car, okay, being too light, gee whiz, I oscillate between not liking it being light and liking it being light, okay, as I'm driving it, you know what I mean? So it does pretty, they're both really quite good. Okay. And again, the light car is really the data car. Okay. You know what I mean? That's the car that's probably got the most time on it. Not in this test, but just in general. Okay. It's been put together the longest. Okay. And so I'm just going to keep going and see what happens. Maybe you're right, Dennis. Maybe the heavier car might end up being faster. Okay.
Do you find any major difference in straight line speed? I mean, because you've got two different motors. Even though they may be the same spec, they may not be producing the same RPM.
Okay, straight line speed. No, I can't say. I do. The only maybe difference might be coming out of the hole or coming out of a turn. Okay, the lighter car seems to be a little quicker. Okay, in acceleration maybe, but in
You would
general,
expect that with the lower weight.
well, and see, it's sort of a the track is not probably the best idea for a test track because the track has 10. And just in general, okay, it's 250 feet long. It has 10 roughly 20-foot straightaways. So, and about 22 different turns of all shapes and sizes. So it's interesting when you say how faster. I would say no, they're not faster, but maybe coming out of the turns it's faster. Okay.
Should be.
And I think a lot of it, Dennis, is probably my I'm not the greatest driver in the world, and I'm learning how to drive both of these cars. They're not like any other cars that I've had on my track ever. So, and like I said, that's why I'm kind of taking my time with it and just kind of coming to a conclusion slowly. You know what I mean? With just putting the time into it. So.
I've got a couple of suggestions you might want to try that don't take much. One would be continue with your tests, but use the very same body shell on both cars, if that's possible.
That I do. Well, they're identical body shells. I could, you follow what I'm saying?
We always like to think that. And then, of course, what I would do is I would ballast the light one to make it similar to the heavy one and see whether or not the characteristic reverses or whether the characteristics of the drive become similar and whether or not the best lap time actually reverses.
Yeah.
I see your point about not being having much space to put weight into.
That's why I got
think I could manage it.
That's kind of why I got the first car marked as the mule or the data car. I don't want to make any changes to that car.
Yeah, you want to get this one as quick.
Yeah, and like I said, when I say test car number 2, focus, that's kind of the focus that, the whole idea of this test is that, does that motor pod, does it work better? Is it faster than the I-beam version of it? Okay. And so, there might be a third test car in here, or the test car number 1 might turn into the same chassis with a I-beam, comparing one to the other kind of thing. But
what you have successfully proven is that you can make a car very quick without having a motor pod, because the mule car doesn't have a pod. It's a solid car as far as it goes. It's like a scale electric in that respect.
Yep.
Yeah,
It's a single plane chassis.
Little piece, yeah.
yeah, it's it's a kind of a freak, if that's what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it's
In a good
really,
way.
it's really fucking nice. Okay, I mean, I'll just tell you right off the bat, you know, the more time I spend with it, the more I asked, like Dennis was saying, God, it might be too light. And I get that feeling sometimes when I'm driving it until I get used to the lightness, and then I just go, damn, you know, I'm not,
I don't think it is too light.
it's not rotating. I mean, it's not sliding around all over the fucking place. I'm able to, you know, make it brake and make it accelerate fast. And, you know, it's a very nice, to me, it's a very great, a different driving car. And I think there's something going on that I maybe don't understand. Okay, and it has to do with the torsional twisting and the fact that it's got those super light SLS wheels on it, and every, you know, it's just a big wad of SLS nylon, light SLS nylon with a motor stuck on it. Okay, and so I think they're in overall, and then throw into the fact that I'm racing on this very large track that has all different type things on it, including up and down slopes, and you know, different.
I think it's a very good track for testing on. It's got a variety of turns. It's got several long straights, several areas where if one car's faster than the other off of a turn or into a turn, it should show, because you've got, like you said, 22 corners and around 20 straights. Is that right? Did you say?
It's
20,
kind of
20 foot straights.
20, I think it's 22 straights. And I might be missing out a few because some are like switchbacks and stuff like that, you know.
Yeah.
Just in general, it's 10 long straights and 22 other, and some of them are radius ones, but the majority of them are all different radiuses. They're 2s and 3s together, and you know, some go in. I mean, it's just every configuration you could possibly think of, okay, in that length of
And if
track.
anyone's not sure how to have fun with slot cars alone, this is a class example. Learn tuning just by doing things and doing it again and running again and changing it and run again. And this is how you have a lot of fun alone.
Yeah, I got to tell you that, like I said, this has only been going on for about a week now, but God, it's sort of like having two of the best cars is what would be what I call it. It's sort of like, God, you know, I love driving the one, and then I switch to the other one, and it's just as an example, the weight difference is the first thing you notice. Okay, so if I do 25 laps with the mule, and it's 66 grams, okay, I have a certain type of a style that's developing from that weight and the way that car feels. And then I get a cup of coffee and I change cars, and I do 25 laps with the second car. And the second car, just like Dennis was describing, it's a lot clunkier because it's so much heavier. Okay. So at first it seems like, gee whiz, this is a clunky piece of crap, until you start to adapt, and then then you're having just as much fun with that as you did with the first one. So it's kind of like, no matter which one you put on the track, you're going to have a hell of a lot of fun with. So anyways, that's what I've done so far. So
That's great.
okay.
Yeah,
The track is a Carrera track,
so.
and it's all laid above one another. It's all laid on multiple layers, isn't it? If anyone hasn't seen your track, it's really long and narrow, and it's like, is it 4 layers high?
Its general description would be 30 feet long by 4 or 5 feet wide, and it has 3 major tiers to it.
3 tiers.
Yeah. The main tier with the most amount of straightaways is the the first level, and then second level has a few, like the second level has three straightaways on it, and the last tier has two straightaways on it. So it's up and downs and back and forths and stuff. So there, it's not it's Carrera. It's all Carrera. So that's the type of track that it is.
Okay, so it's plastic track.
Yeah.
And 22 curves is not that many. In Formula One, the Jetta circuit's got 27 curves in it. So any track is good if it's consistent. Have you put any sector timing in on your Carrera track? Then you could tell, if you had Carrera digital, you could put in check tracks. If you put them multiples in a row, it'll give you acceleration rates.
I don't
put them around the track.
I don't have sector tracked, and I don't have digital, so nor do I want to do digital, but I have thought about having sector tracks, and that's an idea that, it might come to pass at some point, but
I mean, that would tell you something about your track. You can actually use a sector timing in analog mode. If you do like an analog switch into your track, that's still possible. You just wouldn't use lane change. It wouldn't really matter.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
Actually,
then
you can
like
you
the
can
weight of your
achieve-
cars, you're talking about the weight of the cars, and we're seeing photos of the chassis. Are you running the same body on the car, or is that the weight of the chassis and you're running with no body, without a body?
No, they both have, they're both pilot car bodies, both identical bodies.
Okay. Are they the same body, or you weighed them to make sure that they're the same? And
They're the same body.
Okay.
They're not the same body. There's two bodies, but they're basically identical.
Okay.
And actually, that's not, it's, and maybe I confused some people by making that A to B comparison, because really it's not an A to B comparison, only in the fact that the B car, or the number two car, is the focus. Okay.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
how fast can I make this car go
Yeah.
compared to the mule? Okay.
And is there an offset in your new T-shaped style twist pod?
There what?
Is there an
An
offset between your armature height and your axle height?
No, the weather, yes, there's 1 millimeter offset.
Okay, and is that the same in your mule?
Same in both.
It's the same in both.
Same in both. Because they're both non-magnet cars. Okay. Well, actually, the one thing that is sort of freaking me out a little bit, okay, is that the second car, the car with the spinning, with the rotating tube pod, I thought for sure I would, the first thing I would end up trying with that car would be adding weight into the forward of the motor
pockets.
But it's not that case. So far that it doesn't need it. You know what I mean, at all. It's anything, I'm going to take weight out of the front of the car, out of the mower plate, to try to get the front to back, front to rear bias changed. Okay. And once again, I'm trying to stick to the tried and true, just try one difference at a time. Like I said, the last difference was that difference, just putting the silicone O-rings underneath the rear of the pod screws, the two rear pod screws, was incredibly different. Okay. You know what I mean? Like I said, it was 4/10 different. Okay. And so
that is a huge difference.
Yeah.
Mind you, on a large track,
actually, it's not a huge difference.
yeah, on a large track, it's small. It's a smaller difference, but
you look at the mean, 25-second lap time. Okay, 0.4 against 25 is minuscule difference. So there's a lot of little things that you can get fooled on because of what I'm doing and the way I'm doing it with what I'm doing. with the length of the track and all that other stuff,
Well,
so-
if you take some of the weight out of the Mauer plate to change the distribution, strictly speaking, to do it purely, you should reinstall that near the back. Otherwise, you'll just make the car lighter.
Garth, have you ever used something like a skid pad like track, a small circular or oval track to you take out some of the variables for all the length of your main track, take out some of those variables and concentrate on some of the things that may surface on like the skid.
Well, there's two things about that. Yeah, if I was, Mr. Slot Car Science, I would probably do something like that. But the variables that I want to conquer, okay, are on the track. I want the car to go fast on the track that I have. So to me, it's a test for me. It's a test by me for me.
Makes sense. That's good.
And I am going to get a mule driver too. So I can watch how it affects other people and stuff. So like I said, it's been quite the experience. Okay. And but I got to tell you that on the rotating tube thing, there's absolutely no evidence so far that it's bad. It's more leaning good than anything, so.
Yeah.
Garth, I think you should try doing the shim thing, shaving the mount point. The purpose for shaving the mount point is if you put that pod in a car and it's resting on the chassis, when the pod starts to rotate, it has no place to go. It pushes the chassis. And one of the points behind having that tube is so that the pod can rotate independently of the chassis.
Jim, my answer to that is I absolutely hear you, and I heard you the first time. And I only have 3 pods to work with. Okay, so I don't. When I get around to doing that, okay, what I'll do is I'll get a printed motor pod with that change done in the CAD file. Okay, but to the next thing I'm going to try after the weight change to the front, changing the front to back weight distribution, is I'm going to try a long screw with springs on some type of spring or silicone washer on top. In other words, and this, you have to understand that the length, the depth of the little boss that the motor pod screw goes into is a lot deeper because, and I quickly, when I first started doing the nylon things, I realized that, gee whiz, when you do a thing for a screw to fit into nylon, you got to make sure you got a really good thickness. So they're a little bit thicker than a standard motor pod thing. So I use a pretty long screw on there. But what I did is I ordered some 10 millimeter screws. I'm going to make up my own Chicago screws. Okay, like and so I'm going to do not exactly what you're saying, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the rubber above it. Okay, follow what I'm saying? I'm going to put a screw through the hole. I'm going to take a screw and turn it down, like the slot car corner screws. I don't know what the proper name.
Plain shank.
In tool and die, they call it Chicago screw. It's where the
shaft is not.
Yes, the shaft is not. It's turned down. Okay.
Yes.
And so it's going to go through the thing all the way at the top, and the way that the pod moves up and down will be above those bosses, okay, as opposed to what I did just by putting a little silicone space underneath them. That
Yeah,
was just
I think the Wayne shank has a very tiny shaft. I think that's what the difference is.
It depends on which brand you buy. There are a lot of screws out there that are M2, but around the plain shank they're 1.8. But there are other screws that are 1.6 in that area.
Wayne, he was making fun of your manhood, but
Was he? Has he seen it?
Did you understand what I was saying, Jim? But I'm gonna make
It's all over the internet.
Is he in my OnlyFans?
Sort of, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna try something a little more sophisticated than what I did. And then the next thing is I'll try what you're saying, but I want to do that. I don't want to shave it myself. I want to just do that with a print because I'm at the point now where, here's, there's no and here's yes for those pods. And so if it keeps, pointing yes, okay, I'm going to order some more pods to do some more testing. Okay, so
I don't know about you guys, but Chicago screw doesn't sound good to me. I don't know. I just
it's an old tool and die makers thing where actually it was actually kind of a bastardized version for making a mistake, okay, where they would take an Allen screw, okay, and they would have a die section and they would have screwed the die section up because they used the wrong steel or it was heat treated the wrong way. And they had to move the die section and there was no way to move it because it was hardened. So what they do is they turn down the inside of a cap screw, okay, to make it smaller so they could stick it into the die section and then move the die section over a little bit and tighten it back down. So that's
so now you're talking about a Chicago cap. Now that's more
Chicago, well, the term is Chicago screw, and I'm just using, I'm probably going to get a lot of tool and die makers, pissing on me about it, but that's what I've always called it. So
joke, Garth.
What?
Was
Okay.
making
It's another one. Is that another one of those Canadian humor things?
No, more like Italian mafia, but we won't go there. It's okay.
All right. Anything else, Garth? Anybody else got any questions, Garth? No more puns, please. Moving on then. All right. Any other show and tell? If we'll move on to Club Corner, so go ahead and raise your hand. I'll do my little Club Corner thing.
Greg, real quick while you're loading that, I went in and added that info to printables.
Okay.
I also modified the driver. I just nipped the front off and that loaded that file up. I loaded that body into Orca Slicer. I'm not seeing that same thin spot you are. It's not showing up.
I'll fire up Orca and see if I can figure out what setting that is.
Okay.
I have settings to make it go away, but yeah, I'll try Orca. So Brian was talking about the Worldwide Slot Car Chat proxy car, which we talked about earlier in the show. So since this is Club Corner, I'll talk a little bit about that. Better get your host applications in soon. Spots are running out quickly. I'll put the link in the description of this video again to download the track host nomination form, and it has the email address to send it to.
Have you had any nominations from the UK, Greg?
I have. Yep.
Good.
Yep, we got UK and a couple from the States, and depending on the timing of things, Una wants to have a track too.
Oh yeah.
Just fill out the form and send it to me, and we'll put it in the stack and figure out who gets to race the cars. I'll also try to put in the link for the printables if you want to go and take a look at the model files as they are, and think about whether or not you want to do it. We have not finalized the car spec yet. We'll be doing that in the coming weeks because what's the point of making a car if you don't know what tracks it's going to run on? So basically, as soon as we get the track situation figured out, we'll be publishing the car specs and stuff around the same time.
Greg, I missed part of that. Do we have tracks that have applied?
I have received applications, yes. Yeah, I figure I'll make a folder and put all the applications there, and then share you guys a link to that folder so that the committee can look at them at their leisure. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick club corner about my club. It's Electric Motorsports Association. We started our NSR F22 series on Monday, and this is my mostly blue car. Over in the labels still haven't come in to my friend who's going to do the decals or decals, or finish the job for me. Otherwise, we've got a pretty good field. Obviously, 2 of each of those cars and those cars and those cars. But the guys do personalizing things like painting the helmets. This guy added some gold leaf stripes to his car and stuff like that. We do race, crash, and burn, and so it's a get your laps in, especially with open-wheeled racers. You just want to stay out of trouble. I made my own trouble and ended up in the 3rd place. But yeah, it's these cars are tricky and open wheel, so you can't get close to each other. I made an announcement at the beginning of before the racing started to please, if you're gonna slow down and let somebody go past you in order to avoid contact, do it in the straights. Wait till you're on the straight. Don't slow down in the turn, because then wheels touch. Don't speed up or slow down just race normal through the turns. Wait for the straight. I think some people listened. But yeah, that's pretty much it. I was actually surprised that I even landed on the podium, given how many times I came off early. But apparently enough of the other guys came off early enough to lose more laps than me. So woot. All right, I'm done. Mike.
Well done, Greg. Well done.
Amy. Oh, and towards the end of the night, I heard one of the guys, looking at my car and saying, "Oh, I need to talk to Greg about, what he's doing." I'm like, dude, I don't, I trued the tires that morning. That's pretty much all I did. And then I remembered moving the 2 side screws to the back, and I'm like, oh yeah, hey, everybody do this. It might help. And they're like, well, why? And I'm like, pretty much everybody I know that races those things says to do that. So I did that. I don't know. Car's running good, I can't complain. I didn't test it with the screws up, in the forward, because the 2 on the sides and the forward rather than the back, but yeah, we'll see if anybody makes that change and thinks that things improved. We have a mix of plastic and wood tracks, so we usually go plastic, wood, plastic, wood, plastic, wood. So I'm sure that will also affect, the performance difference.
And no magnets, right?
No magnets, yeah. But those motors have some pull. Some of the guys were pulling over 30 grams, but most of them were less than 30.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
On the magnet Marshall that was in that location at the time. I don't know if it reads high or what, but
yeah,
you can definitely feel it. But yeah, it's not like with the stock magnet. They let go. Okay, Mike, you ready?
Yeah, I can share, I think. Come on, wake up. That's what we were racing last night. And I switched to the Eagle motor and made a hell of a difference once I learned how to manage it. I did okay. I qualified 4th and I ended up 6th overall, but I gave Mike a real hard run for his money. I finished just a little over a lap behind. But we had a couple of kids racing with us, and I got collected more than he did. So that has something to do with it. But I was down 4 laps on the last stint, and I made up all but that last lap. And if he had had any trouble, I'd have had him. So, but it was fun. We had a good time. I really like the Eagle motor a lot better than the Pro Slot. It suits my driving style a little bit more. But you really have to put the brakes on much more than I'm used to. I mean, the brakes on the Pro Slots are like right now, and you barely have to put any on. But with the Eagles, you got to put some brake on and make it work. So it was good fun, and we had a good time all the way around. So that's me. We had no 30-second scale this week because the 2 guys were busy. So such is life. Okay, that's me.
Where you can get it. I got your share.
Oh, thanks.
Thanks for the report, sir. And Dewan, you are next.
Okay, great. Last weekend we had a race for the Powerhouse Fly Car Club. We had 2 classes, the Fly Classic Le Mans from 64 to 71, and the slotted DTMs. And we went over to this very obscure place no one's ever heard of called Electric Dreams, and raced on Sampson Raceway. So this is my So it's pretty nice. And I had a car that was donated to me a while ago that it's probably the most pleasantly driving car that I ever had. It's from one of the classic guys in the club that no longer really competes. He moved up to the Nevada area about an hour from me. He's in Pahrump. And
well, hold on, is that you at the top? Look at that.
No. That's just my first. That's the first heat.
Oh, well, wait to taunt us.
No. I only finished 4th in that heat. So
you need to realize that
yeah,
the lap counter shows in the order of the lanes, and next to each guy's name there's a number. Not the one on the left, but the one on the right.
Oh,
yes, there we go.
Sorry. I thought he was like Dewan the Fourth, which is understandable.
Yeah, I'm sure Kevin T. the First would like that.
Yeah, Kevin is he's one of the top racers in the group. But anyway, it was a really nice race. And again, I was racing with that car that I received from Michael Smalley, one of the old classic guys from the group that he gave me a car that I love. It's actually the 4th place Le Mans 66 Porsche 908 or 906. Can't remember now. Anyway, so that was a great car. And so this is my first heat. 25 laps. Second heat, down here, 26 laps. Still in 4th place. But we had 20 races, 19 races, and and then I kind of tapered off a bit on the yellow lane there. And the black lane, I had some major problems with. I think I came off and had some trouble getting my car going back again. And then the last heat it's a little blurred. It's a blue lane. And that is my car that's at the 56 marker right there, the one that's in the front. And I ended up, it says that I was in 4th for that heat. Again, we had 19 racers. So overall for the entire race, you see where my marker is. I'm at the 56 marker, and someone took my car off before they recorded the fractions of the last heat. That's I don't know if you guys maybe race all 6 heats at one time, one lane at a time, and then we're done. But in the last heat, the 6th lap, the 6th heat, we take the fractions of how far you get and add that to your totals, the total number of laps, and it gives you all the fractions of put in there, and it just fine tunes it. It makes an estimate on the fractions with the timing software that's in there. So it's just a minor adjustment. But nonetheless, someone took my car off the track before they did the final adjustments, and it dropped me down one position. So you see right here, 147, 56, 47 versus 147, 56, or 56. And I actually was ahead of him. My car was ahead of his on that picture. So
Yeah.
anyway, like who cares about going from 15th to 14th, you know? But that's
Of course you care.
Yeah, I'm claiming it. And you know, the thing is, I did beat a couple of the guys that are pretty. That's always been a little bit ahead of me, so that felt good. The fact that I had a decent car and kept it on most of the time. I didn't have, like I said, one trouble time. And then the second heat, the second race was the DTMs, and I was actually more confident with that DTN car. I could drive it better, but I had more technical problems in that one than the other one, and that failed as well. So this is a good, and that is my car right there, the Mercedes 190 green. And I think it was, yeah, this lane I did 23 laps versus I was averaging like 26 to 27 laps most of the time. So that's, and this one I finished 16th out of 18. And literally, I would Baba Hooley, he had to did not finish. He had a problem with his car, so I probably would have finished 17th out of 18. But the other thing was the guy down at the bottom, Jackson. He's the son of the guy that finished in third, Brandon. And I should have mentioned that Walter won both races, both the Le Mans fly class as well as the DTM. Walter Baines. And he had an outstanding day in both classes. But the guy that finished in 18th is the son of the guy that's finished third, Brandon. And I don't have his exact age, but my guess would be he's 10 or under. So we're getting new blood introduced into the sport and stuff like that. So it's really nice, and they really pointed that out. He was a little challenged, but he did manage to race quite well. Especially for the age. Absolutely. That's it. Oh, next week this weekend rather, we're going to be going to Craig Williams's track out in Silver Lake. I've never been there before, so it's supposed to be a really small, very, very fun track, wood rod track. He said in the track times will probably be close to the low threes, so it must be really a small track itself. But nonetheless, it's going to be very fun, and I'll see. We'll be racing our F1s and NSR F1s and the Revo Group 2s that race. So you guys know about that next week. That's all I have.
Good stuff. Thanks for sharing. And Jason, you are up next.
You put my share down? Yeah, there it is.
Okay. This is my first time on this computer, so can you hear me okay?
You're good. Sound good. Look good. Beautiful.
So I'm sorry, I'm a bit slow on the draw this morning. I'm late and I didn't get my hand up fast enough. I want to go back to a show and tell / ask Brian a few questions about the proxy car. So firstly, I apologize if you've already covered this, but this is a pod from the car. You can see that one of the motor mount things is broken off. So Brian, I was curious what material, I'm assuming you're using PLA to print these out?
Yes, I've used PLA on mine. What motor size pod was that?
Okay, so it's the short cam. So we've made a new one, but you can see that we added in these braces at the mount just to make it a bit stronger.
That probably is the one I made the tightest of the batch. The others you have to use the motor screws. You really do. That's a good idea. I'll go ahead and add those. What did you print that out of originally?
So this is originally a PLA, but it's an
PLA.
older PLA. And this is a newer material, and it does seem a bit more rigid and better.
Is the
I would
black
like to try nylon, but my friend who prints them out, he doesn't have that capacity. So we did this instead, and so far.
Okay, I'm actually holding one of those pods in my hand right now, and I've got a slotted orange bell motor in it. And I've actually got almost a millimeter of space between the end of that can and the back part that you broke off.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So I'm curious, how did you install the motor? Because the way I would do it is I would put the shaft side in first.
Correct. Yes.
And then drop the back end in.
Yeah. So that's what I did. So shaft side in first and then pop it down. But as soon as I popped it in, it just broke. And then did the same with this one. And you're right, on this one, you probably can't see it, but there is a slight gap, maybe 0.5 millimeter from the back of the motor to the, you can see it there, bit of a gap. So I haven't put screws in this yet, but like you say, it is very tight to clip it into here, but with those braces there, it's not broken at the moment. Obviously, if you're going to take the motors
mine's
in
not quite that tight. And also that whole pod flexes a little bit. So that might be why I haven't broken anything, because I flexed the pod a little bit when I dropped that in there.
Oh, okay.
But no, that's a good idea. I can certainly add those. And actually, if you look, I think most of the other ones do have some sort of bracing there for that back end.
Okay.
So Jason,
thank you.
PLA, the black PLA was older. Is it also a matte PLA, so it's not shiny?
I'm sorry, I don't know. My friend printed it out for me.
Looking at it, does it have a shiny surface or?
Oh, yeah, no, it's matte. It's matte.
So it's probably matte PLA. Either it's a matte PLA, or he printed it at a lower temperature for some reason to avoid stringing or something like that. Of those things, like matte PLA specifically, has terrible layer adhesion. It'll just snap at the top of a hat. That's matte PLA. That would explain it. Also, the PLA that he printed cold to avoid stringing or for whatever reason, that also will contribute to poor layer adhesion. And like you said, it's old, so it's probably not the design so much as whatever that black PLA is just not good. But there's nothing wrong.
Experiment with some temperatures and things like that.
Now, if you look, you can see I've got gap there.
Right.
So, and then actually, this will actually flex quite a bit too. So, and that's with motor screws in it.
Wow. That's very flexible.
Yeah, I would glue that in for sure.
Nah.
Mine's
it doesn't move.
Nowhere near, like mine's solid and it's right up against it. That's not going anywhere. The only place it's flexing is the back because there's no motor screws in it yet.
Yeah, I don't remember. I think this stuff is called PLA. It's from Inland, which is Micro Center here. I think it's called PLA Tough. So it's got some flex to it. So
okay.
I mean, yeah, you could certainly glue that in, like Mike suggested. I've run a few of these. It doesn't seem to be causing an issue. I mean, because the whole pod flexes. Sure. I mean, you got screws front and back, so it's not like that thing's flexing like that when it's in the chassis.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And have you tried slotted gears in your pod? Do you get clearance on your slotted gears?
Yep. Let me grab one here.
Is yours rubbing?
Yeah. But I mean, I'll just get the Dremel and take it away a little bit. But the NSR formula gears don't rub. They're a bit smaller. So, yeah. And the last question is in regards to the body. This one has been printed in a vertical orientation. I'm curious as to, are you printing in a vertical or a horizontal, and what do you think is better?
All right. Well, first off, there's a slotted gear in mine. Now, this is with the slim can. You see, I got plenty of room there.
This could just also be differences in calibration. Like one's could be closer and tighter than the other.
Yeah.
They're different gears, aren't they? One's a black one, one's a purple one. Aren't they different
the
diameters?
diameters are different. Yeah.
This is the standard 927, I believe I did on this.
27, yeah.
Mine's
a 28, but they don't, not all the same size with the inlines. They get bigger as they get more teeth.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I'll change my gearing.
Yeah, well, I may have to make a change to the pod once they come up with rules, because they may have specific gearing requirements. So we may have to change something else. But
Sure.
that wouldn't be that difficult. I mean, heck, most of the back of that pod could probably come out. You know, it probably doesn't have to be fully enclosed like that. And as far as printing them goes, I typically print my bodies in resin.
Right.
I have printed a couple in PLA. And this I printed at about a 22-degree angle, which gave me a very nice smooth top, but I did have a slight issue on the nose there. You can see it got kind of thin. Now, I don't know. I'm kind of new to this printer when I did this. So that looks more like a printer setting than a model setting issue, because those holes aren't there. As a matter of fact, I printed one of them dead flat, not at an angle. And you can see there's a lot more texture on the flat part of the side pods. I don't know if that's showing up there or not. There are definite ridges there. Yet when I printed it at about a 22.5-degree angle, those pods came out almost perfectly smooth. And
Cool.
now the resin ones, this is an earlier prototype. You can see it doesn't have the windshield portion on it or the holes for the mirrors. That's about as smooth as a baby's butt. And you see it doesn't have any of the details on the back or the gills on the front. It weighs a couple grams more, but a lot less work when it comes to finishing and painting it.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. Well, thank you.
And since I got that chassis here, I don't know if you guys can see, I was talking about using the bushings on the front. You can quite see them in there, the 2mm axle spacers. I happen to use a set screw top and bottom on these. You can see they provide quite nice rotation. All right. But that was the slim can. So this was the original chassis, because I kind of figured we were kind of, when we first talked about this was kind of the motor that they were thinking. I know they've got some other ideas kicking around for motor choices, but so this was the very first chassis.
Yeah, I wouldn't spend money just yet. I mean, you got a friend with a printer, you got your own printer, you know, have fun, but you know, don't go buying parts to fit into things just yet.
Well, I think you can go ahead and put a chassis together and just start playing with it and see how it feels. Because about the only thing that would probably change on the chassis would be the pod. And all three of those are available. So,
like, we haven't discussed, you know, whether or not we're going to disallow some of the things that we've been talking about or allow them. Like I'm just saying, the spec hasn't been set.
Right.
Build your car for fun. Don't be surprised if you have to change something down the road.
Building to a mystery. You don't want to build to a mystery.
Yeah.
well, you could
I have
also
a shop full of
have
stuff.
a nice car of your own that you don't enter. So
That too. Yeah.
Yeah. And I have a shop full of stuff. So, you know, I'm just playing around and
Sure.
I'm also talking to some guys in Singapore and Malaysia and see if we can get a bit of an Asian proxy going. So I'm kind of experimenting and defining, see what happens depending where, we land here on the chat, and if it needs to be a bit different depending on availability, then whatever.
Well, if you build the chassis and start playing it, I'd love to hear some feedback. So please, anytime you got any suggestions, comments, what do we always say? Suggestions, comments, or smart ass remarks, they're all welcome.
Sure. Well, I mean, so far the chassis is very good. My friend who print this stuff, he made up an IndyCar chassis and put on top of it. And we currently have a Daytona oval setup because we've got an IROC NASCAR 300 lap race coming up soon. And he's running his car within a tenth or two of like the NSR, what are they, 89, 90s or whatever they are. Like, it runs very good.
With that chassis?
Yes, with that chassis.
Terrific. Glad to hear that. Very glad to hear that.
And Jason, where are you from? Or where you at?
I'm in Brunei, in Asia. So near Malaysia and Indonesia.
Which means an hour after your race, you'll just want to race again.
Yeah, race home.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks. Did you get all your questions answered, Jason?
Yep, it's good. Thank you.
Cool beans. All right, let's get Lenny in here and let him do his thing.
Okay, can you see that, guys?
Yep.
Yes. Oh, see, sheep have the right of way. There you go.
Yeah, it's Sheep Station round again in at Spitfire Raceway. So we had our second round of our points championship. So we ran modern Formula One, the open wheelers, modern GT, and Group 5 cars. So the sheep are there waiting to be rounded up and whatever, with the other characters standing around doing nothing. Okay, so first up we ran Group 5, and actually I don't think I've got the running order right, but we'll start with this one. And as per usual, Andrew topped the results there from Jason, and then Steve Lambert finished third. So it's good to see some different names up on the podium, if not Andrew. But so Andrew ran his Ferrari 512 BB, and then Jason had his M5, and Steve ran his Capri. So it was pretty good racing. I'll just go back to the results. Steve didn't have Andrew didn't have his own way exactly, so it was a lot closer than what it normally is. And then Jeff in fourth, me, Ian in fifth, Norm in sixth, me in seventh, Max, who comes now and again, in eighth, and Callum ninth, and poor old Andrew G bringing up the winner's spot from behind, so to speak. So the next up we ran modern GT. Andrew once again won again by a much larger margin than the previous race. I was second with my Corvette, and Norm was third. Then Ian, Jeff, Steve, Callum, Andrew, Jason. Jason had a pretty bad night in modern GT. I'm trying to remember. He ran a McLaren. He's having a fair bit of trouble with it. Max brought up the rear in this one. And there's the podium for the group, the modern GT. So Andrew had a Mercedes. I had the Corvette C7, and there's a McLaren for Norm. Norm's getting that thing going rather well. He'll be knocking on the top step eventually with it, I think. And then finally we ran modern GP. Andrew once again won it from Ian by 3 laps, roughly just under 3 laps. Then Norm in third, so Norm's got another podium there. Jason, myself, Steve, Andrew, Jeff, Callum, and Norm.
I'm sorry, Lenny, I had a question. I'm trying to understand the gap to leader column and versus the laps. Could you explain what does the gap to leader?
25 seconds.
Basically, yeah, 25 seconds behind. So that's
seconds. Okay,
basically
seconds.
3 laps.
Okay. Yes, gotcha. Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, so that's the overall distance behind. Poor old Max is 134 seconds behind.
In seconds.
So,
In seconds.
yeah, it's in
That is-
seconds. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. There's a podium for that one. So one of the new Formula 22s, whatever they call them, the NSR ones. That was the first race for Andrew with this car. So he won on debut, and then the other two are NSR 98, 99s. And then following, just a quick one. Following week we ran open wheelers again, and Andrew won that. But the interesting thing was the best lap time, the 5:07.6. I'll just go back to the time he set with on debut, 5:09.28. He came back the following week with the same car, but he done a few little mods. He machined the front wheels down so they were a bit smaller, and he's running fairly small diameter back tyres on it compared to the original. And he came out and demolished the lap record and did a 5:7.61, which is now the new outright lap record on the track. I'm getting a bit concerned about this because the short lap time on the track's 5.5, so I might have to adjust the short lap time. So that's about it for this week. Next week we're doing one of our one car races with the handicap components. I'll be reporting on that one next week. That's it for me.
Oh, man.
Stuff. Anybody else want to talk about racing? Otherwise, the floor is open. Talk about anything slot car related. I'll just doze off. All right, we're going to end the show.
Oh, I was going to ask a question. I'd forgotten about that. Has anybody tried something to actually measure straight line speed on a car, like at the end of a straightaway, short of rigging up the local traffic department's radar trap at the end of the straightaway? But
well, don't laugh, because I had a friend who had one of those Hot Wheels radar things, and they actually work quite well. And we used it on our track for a while. It was great fun.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I got one of those Hot Wheel things here. It can do small scale or it can do 1-to-1 scale. It does radar on your car.
Right. Yeah. So it'll give you an actual speed. I think it even does it in kilometers per hour, Jeremy, doesn't it?
Yeah, but I don't read Canadian
kilometers.
That prompts another question. All of you guys that talk about kilometers, do you talk about kilograms as well when you're talking about weight?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're fully metric here.
It's actually Swedish. It's kilograms.
It's right up there with aluminium and aluminum.
I'll check it out. Thanks. Hot Wheels, you say?
Yeah, you can get them on eBay, actually. Yeah.
Okay. I'll have a look. A friend of mine was asking.
Here in a second.
Oh, have you got one handy, Jeremy?
Yeah, he's got one.
Oh my gosh!
A friend of mine was asking
I thought I
because
was
he
the
was
only one
trying to.
hiding things underneath the show, folks.
Your friend was asking, Dennis?
Yeah, a buddy of mine was asking because he was trying to work out the difference between two cars. He has two cars that he thought were set up exactly the same, and he gets different performance results from them. And he was trying to work out where it was. Was it in the end of the straight speed? Is it somewhere else? And so he was trying to work it out.
You can do 1-to-1 scale. You can do Hot Wheels scale, which would be, I don't know, what are Hot Wheels? Like
64.
1/64.
And then it's got to switch for miles per hour or kilometers per hour, but use pull
Or
the
even
trigger.
kilometers per hour, right?
Yeah, but it's not made of aluminium. It's made of aluminum.
I think it's called plastique.
Yeah, it actually is. It's a real radar gun. I mean, toy size, but definitely
Interesting.
works.
Yeah. All right. Thank you.
And since you've already had children, you don't have to worry where you put it. That's awesome.
I know. So, Hot Wheels.
You remember the speed test bench Henry showed us a while ago? Basically, it's a rolling road, but it calculated the PMs and their
sure, yeah.
so that
He
provided.
was looking for something on. He was looking for something on the actually on the track.
I've seen track-based speed detectors, like with 2 points of car detection, knowing the distance between those 2 points and calculating that.
Yeah, Race wanted to do that with the intermediate speeds. We put two light sensors between the span.
Yeah, you can do it with regular slot car sensors or blade sensors, or
All right, thanks, guys. Yeah,
really available that I'm aware of. I mean, there's like a Hot Wheels, not Hot Wheels.
The only slot car setup I know of that has that as a standard off-the-shelf feature is Carrera. That if you put 2 of their check tracks on a straightaway, it'll tell you the time and speed. You can, if it only tells you the time and you know how many feet you've gone, it's a pretty simple calculation to figure out what the speed of the car is. And if you put 6, if you have a 14 track straightaway and you use all check tracks, they're about $31 a piece. But if you made a straightaway that was 50 check tracks long, it would tell you from track to track what your speed, what your acceleration rate is, everything.
I don't know what product line you're looking at, but there is a hard limit on how many check lane tracks that the Carrera Digital supports. I think it's only 5 or something like that, maybe 3 or 4. You can't just put a whole bunch in a row like that.
The Smart Race is where I got that from. Smart Race indicates that if you put several, maybe they said several. So my belief is when you say several, there's several. If several is 5, then they're constraining themselves to that limit. But they advertise their app as having that functionality.
Sure. No, it does, but also it works for digital.
Dennis, have Marco buy some and put him on the track.
Yep. Let's try that. Thanks, guys.
That'd be fun.
I mean, I've seen an HO off-the-shelf drag race thing. That's basically all you need is 2 detectors. Get a drag race thing.
Cool.
I had something that came up in the Vintage Revell group regarding track cleaning, and I know we've kind of gone over track cleaning concepts in the past, but I included a video of my Carrera truck along with that Pro Contour 2 track cleaning device, and I run that dry with just the smooth, silky sleeve that the Carrera truck comes with, as well as with either the microfiber or the Swifter type of sleeve that the Track Pro Contour has available. And using that thing, it raises the grip and it eliminates as much dust and debris off the track as you could possibly imagine, and the performance of the cars is just tremendously enhanced. But one of the guys in the group actually several people were chiming in on the fact they use a small amount of Windex on a microfiber towel and wipe their tracks down with that. This is the plastic tracks that they were talking about, the ones that were commenting. But there are other I know some other people were mentioning WD-40 and some other concepts. But is there any solvents or
Well,
other things?
for what it's worth, on our painted track, believe it or not, I use vinegar and water, just as you would on a wall, and it works really, really well.
You put vinegar water on a microfiber towel and just wipe the surface by hand or with
Actually, you can either put it on the towel or spray it on the track and wipe it up.
Okay.
It's 2 to 1, 2 water to 1 vinegar, and it works great.
And it's a painted Carrera track, so it doesn't affect the there's no, obviously that's not going to affect the paint material or.
No, not at all. The only problem is you have a craving for fish and chips. Other than that, it's great.
Yeah. Those of us from the colonies will all understand that reference.
So are there any other, okay, that's good. Vinegar and water, 2 to 1. Anyone else use any type of solvent or something to wet the track with? Or?
Well, to your point though, to wipe the actual I guess metal contacts on the track, I actually take like a old cotton sock and use essentially butane, and that really gets it keeps the contact really nice and clean. But for grip, we use vinegar and water.
Thank you.
We use 99% isopropyl alcohol to clean the rails. I find because the drops from your braid conditioning stuff, gum up the rails. So we use the isopropyl alcohol and clean it every week or 2, and it cleans really good.
Yeah, and the track we're using
plastic, all we do is vacuum it.
Is that done on braids, or is it you do that with on a metal rail?
Metal rail.
Jason,
Sorry,
were you doing that on with metal rails or braids?
Sorry, my internet connection I think is crappy. Yes, it just yes, it's I guess a mixture of metal and stainless steel on the polycar track. It's not a pure stainless steel, but yeah. So metal rails on a plastic track, and then just vacuum the plastic.
Okay. Yeah, I found that that's where the Carrera truck it really wipes down the metal rails, whereas the Pro Contour track pro thing, it does the surface of the track. It's wide. It's wider than the typical 32 scale car, almost 124 scale. Not quite. I wish it was, and that would make it even better. But that performs the track surface cleaning, as well as inside the groove. It cleans out the gunk and stuff like it that might possibly get in the groove. Pretty rare. But the contact of the Carrera track cleaning truck, it hits those rails and it really kind of cleans the rails.
So it actually cleans like the actual groove itself as well.
Well, the Pro Contour sits inside the groove of the slot, so that, and it has the Swiffer or the microfiber towel going around that portion as well. So it does clean the inside of that, but the top surface of the rails, the magnetic attachment on the back of the Carrera truck sits down on those metal rails, and it actually cleans the rails better than.
So, that's pretty cool, because just like Jason, we vacuum before we do any sort of other sort of wipe down, and we hope we get everything out of the rail. But that's a really great feature.
Yeah.
Now, if you can make it light enough, Wayne might race it.
Yeah, well, and it does put quite a bit of strain on the truck, but the fact that the truck's got those eight wheels on the rear, it really does a job of pushing that around.
I would think the magnetic shoe or whatever it is that goes down in the groove might pick up any loose set screws or little metal parts too. You know, that'd be great.
It's not that. It's not that. But the Carrera truck, it sits flat across the surface of the metal rails. It does not go in the groove, whereas the Pro Contour Track Pro device, that actually sits inside the slot in the groove, and that's what cleans up. So it cleans, once cleaning up, cleans up somewhat the inside rails and things like the inside grooves, versus the other one is literally polishing or cleaning the top rails. So, okay, well, that was my question.
Well, I think it may also depend on what you're trying to accomplish. I mean, like if I'm just trying to do just a quick dust, I have a one that I made that it's kind of similar to yours. It gets pushed. It's got two guides on it. You know, that's a microfiber cloth. Sometimes I will just spritz that a little bit with just some water, lightly.
Okay, that's similar to the functionality of the Contour 2 devices. That's going. You're putting that in front of your car, or you put it behind your car.
It gets pushed. That's
okay,
from this end.
So
and see, I actually got magnets in it. So that steel plate I use is actually from a guitar, and it adds some weight. That thing weighs pretty substantial. That's a piece of steel.
Is that a neck plate, Brian?
Yep.
Yep.
And so I may have to do another one, because this was originally designed for my Scale Electrics track, and my Scale Auto track is wider, so I may make a bigger one. So
you don't have
sometimes I'll just spritz it with just a little bit of water to help pick up the dust, as opposed to just pushing it around. If it's a deep clean, I tend to do that by hand. You know, I'll take a microfiber cloth. I've used Simple Green. I've used Windexed. Again, it all depends on what you're trying to do. See, me, I run silicone tires, so I don't get a whole lot of tire buildup stuff on my track. But I am also in a bit of a dungeon, and I'm a heavy smoker, so there's that residue I have to deal with. But for the most part, it's a quick dusting, and then about every couple months, I'll give the track a good solid wipe down with a Windex or a Simple Green or some other mild detergent.
Well, to your point, Brian, the one thing we found to work really well, especially like just before doing laps, is a California duster, just to get the dust and stuff off, rather than a deep clean. That works quite well, and you can get them in a dash size, so they're absolutely perfect for a track.
Yeah, but when they're this size, they're even better. That's the length of my arm.
Oh yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah, well, I have a lot of underpasses and overpasses and things like that. I've done that. I use the Swifter actual handle to kind of go up under my. That was an old. I mean, I still do that for, again, a full track clean and deeper clean than.
Brian's looked like a Disney character. That thing's huge.
It's a Muppet.
Brian, were you having any strain on the motor of your car that's pushing that metal plate like that?
Yeah, and actually, some cars don't like it at all. My car I use most is a Carrera AMG, and sometimes it will. The metal plate's probably overkill as far as weight goes. I probably don't need that much, but it lets me know when the track gets clean, because the car will make it all the way around without me having to give it a nudge with a stick. So. But I've also used it with a Swiffer as opposed to the microfiber cloth as well. And it works. It's a quick way to give it a quick clean. Like I said, it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. If you're just trying to dust it off, I think you're pushing that thing around with the Swiffer on. It's probably great. Deep clean, I think you really got to go by hand. I don't think anything you can drive around the track is going to give the track a good deep cleaning.
Well, they won't get into the gutters either. So, yeah.
Found when you really need detergent, this stuff.
Don? Okay.
Power wash, and this little spray bottle thing lets you meter out how much you put out. You know how much soap you put out pretty well, and it, you know, to cut accumulated grease and rubber and stuff like that from a body when you're cleaning it up. I use it pre-paint before applying the paint, and works pretty good.
Yeah, that's good stuff. I've also used the spray away glass cleaner. It's good stuff too. Smells good too.
A word for those that are doing digital: if you're wiping down the track while it's on, you will get a nice buzz on your hand because it's AC, and you can definitely feel it. Ask me how I know.
We can see.
Or the results thereof, anyway.
Yeah. It gets a little hairy, so to speak.
All right. Any other people? All right. I guess
I've got something. It's not directly slot car related, but Max, who comes down now and again, also flies model aircraft, and he gave me this because we're called Spitfire Model Raceway. So it's an old balsa wood replica of a Spitfire Mark V that he crashed and repaired and wasn't able to fly again. So we're going to hang that off the roof eventually. Those that are aficionados, it's marked up in Douglas Bay. It's numbering of letters.
Oh, Douglas Bader. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, old Tin Legs himself.
Yeah, he was Canadian, by the way.
Was he?
Yes, sir.
Okay. You heard that quote that when he went into the school? That's a bit rude.
He had a
You know that one?
He sprung a great joke on a bunch of British society ladies he was speaking to during the war about Fokkers.
Yes, that's it. Yeah, yes. I certainly flew Fokkers, but this one was in a Messerschmitt.
Yeah, he also used to make jokes about not having to drink to be legless.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, when they put him in Colditz, they took his legs away from him. They flew in another set of legs, gave them to him, and then when he got put in Colditz, they took him away from him because he kept trying to escape.
You got a cool mascot for your track now.
Yeah, mate. Yeah, it's going to look good hanging up over the track.
Yeah,
So,
really nice.
Strafing run down the straightaway.
Yeah, yes. We'll go after Andrew S first, I think, just to sort him out.
Take out the competition.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and stream. So until next week, everybody, bye. We'll see
Bye-bye.
you.